Do you ever find yourself in the mood to play a particular game? Like, you've played it plenty throughout your life, but the urge just always comes up. Every time you experience the game, it's just as incredible as you remember. Then you wonder, why wasn't there more? I haven't been gaming as much lately, but nonetheless, I found myself with the urge to revisit the classic we will be discussing in this video. Star Wars Republic Commando is desperately deserving of a sequel, and there's still a large fanbase for this game. Delta Squad forming up and finding their way onto the PS4 and Nintendo Switch in 2021 is living proof of that. I'm Gift22 and welcome to Two Average Brothers. What made Star Wars Republic Commando so great? As a child, I grew up with the prequel era of Star Wars, seeing them come out in theaters, all the games, early 2000s of LucasArts. As an awkward young man, telling girls about sand and my unhinged emotional behaviors netted me a total of 0 bitches.
I don't like sand. It's coarse, rough, and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
I've always been told I'm a handsome young man. I'm still giving it my best effort. Mom. Anyways. Two things that haven't changed since I was a kid is my love for the prequel era, and my bitches have remained the same. The prequels have some great lightsaber duels, world building, and one of my personal favorites, the clone troopers. As a kid, I was drawn so much to episode 2 because of the clones. The clones in Anakin's game made this my favorite Star Wars movie as a child.
Sand.
The clones seemed so badass, and the Battle of Geonosis was the perfect introduction for them. After seeing the movie, I wanted to see more of them. I just wanted to learn more about them overall. They are uniform, competent, and they did a large part in saving the day during the Battle of Geonosis. Looking back at how they started out during this time, I kind of related them to the Master Chief. They're kind of just a canvas you can imprint yourself upon as the viewer. Over time and through a shitload more Star Wars projects, they were fleshed out more and more and more and more and more and more. Star Wars Republic Commando came out in March of 2005, and it was developed by LucasArts in the glory days for Star Wars gaming. Hang on now. What? What's this? Oh my god, they had phenomenal foresight when they released this game, coming out just 8 days after the release of MVP Baseball 2005.
MVP Baseball 2005.
This game might as well have had the hitter's eye with the kind of momentum it had going for it. Just imagine you could play as a John Dowd Commando. What would that be like? Dropping bombs and blowing up droids? Man, what a time the early 2000s were. Republic Commando introduces us to Delta Squad. The concept for this game started as a book series that followed Omega Squad, another squadron of commandos. The first book in the series is Hard Contact, which was released on October 26, 2004. Delta Squad would be brought into the second book in the series, 000, which was released a day prior to the game on February 28, 2005. Man, still so close to MVP. I swear, they had something cooking and they just didn't know how good it was. What was really unique with the book series that would translate into the game is Mandalorian culture. And just look at how much that popped off with the fan base after seeing more of the Mandalorians in the animated Clone Wars series and then eventually the Mandalorian TV show. In the books, Jango Fett and some other Mandalorian bounty hunters trained the first batch of clones, and they would end up becoming the Nolarks and Commandos. Part of their training in the books was teaching the clones about Mandalorian culture. This culture strengthened the bond in the Commandos throughout the Grand Army of the Republic. When it comes to the Commando units, you see how heavily they were imprinted and bonded with their pod. I guess this might be a spoiler for the first book in the series, Hard Contact. Spoiler alert for a book that was released in 2004. Omega Squad is made from surviving members of Commandos following the Battle of Geonosis. The clones that they had spent their entire lives with up to that point, shared pods with, died, and they were forced into a new squad. Contrast this with Delta Squad, who were all original surviving members, and you could see how difficult of a challenge that they had ahead of them. Also, Delta Squad is cocky as shit in 000, and they are kind of douchebags. And to reiterate, part of what made Delta Squad so formidable was that they were one of the few squads of commandos to remain fully intact following the Battle of Geonosis. Republic Commando was my first view into what the Clone Wars were like for the clones. It gave us a little more background and context on their life and just what it was like being in their shoes. Battlefront 2 also gave us a look at what the war was like for clones, but something about Republic Commando just felt super intimate due to the time that you spend with your squad. As the player, you feel more attached to your clone brethren as you go through battle with them, and you learn more about their personality traits. It puts a different perspective on the Clone Wars when you see how much these clones truly care for each other. It also makes it far more depressing when you realize that they were bred to fight and die in a war just orchestrated by Palpatine. This game is so much more violent and gory than any other Star Wars game I can think of. Using your Viro blade to stab droids or Geonosians, then their blood or oil begins to cover your visor. Can we appreciate how oddly satisfying the visor wipe is?
At the opposite end of this room, must control the shield.
Oh yeah, that's the stuff. You can see the large-scale conflict raging in the background. All of this just really immerses you in the game's setting. You're just a foot soldier. Andor is the only other project I can think of in recent memory that pushes a more adult boundary like this in Star Wars. And that's the beautiful thing about this universe. It's so massive, there's plenty of room for stories like this, more character-focused. It shows you what life was like for the more average people in the galaxy and the more average soldiers. In this case, even though you're not the most average soldier. The droid army seems much more imposing in this game because you aren't a force-wielding sociopath. The game portrays them as more competent and imposing compared to other forms of Star Wars content. For example, the animated Clone Wars really leaned into using them as their comic relief.
Oh no! You're under arrest. You have the right.
The game performed pretty well, and people definitely enjoyed it. With some other games that were released around this time, this game might have got lost in the shuffle a little bit due to more prominent projects being released at the time as opposed to more of a niche squad-based shooter. Also, I think something else that worked against this game, Halo being a cultural phenomenon at this time. And Halo 2 is still riding pretty high from its release in 2004. But time has been very favorable to this title, and it's gained somewhat of a cult following. You can see why people think it's one of the best Star Wars titles ever released, from the immersion, squad-based gameplay, and some memorable characters. Let's dive into this take and start by breaking down the story.
Could use some better detail.
Now hang on for just a second. That's terrifying, ain't it? The menu, the music. As soon as you boot it up, you can tell what to expect from this game. Simple and effective. The best part is, they didn't need Hulu to design it. It's gritty, and look how imposing Delta Squad looks. As a kid, this opening screen always put some fear into me. The main theme of the game is imposing, but still feels oddly rejoiceful. The main menu feels like an extension of the game itself, blending in with the personality and tone of the game's story. This is something that modern games really lack. You know, sticking to their personality? I'm looking at you, Call of Duty. Just how the does this happen? I mean, seriously, Nicki Minaj and Warzone, y'all have been sucking ass for way too long now. Can we please get back to making immersive games and stop with the season pass, money grabbing bullcrap? Now, this game really nails the introduction. The clones have short lives, aging twice as fast as normal humans, and the pacing and opening reflects that beautifully. It's kind of horrifying that the first thing you see is a Kamino just staring you down in your pod. Ugh. Nightmare fuel. You go through training quickly, and you catch a brief glimpse of your squad. When you first see them, you have to love the design choice of each of them having customized their armor in some way to reflect their own personality. This was something that the animated Clone Wars leaned into very well, was the individuality of the clone troopers. This game did serve as some inspiration for that series. As the viewer, this builds a connection and makes the clones not just seem like nameless, faceless soldiers. You can tell so much about them by their design choice. While you're going through this opening sequence, there's a Kamino giving a voiceover, and this one line really perfectly describes what it means to be a clone commando.
You are each a piece of a whole person.
Now, commandos are truly built different. They were designed as 4-man squads for reconnaissance and black ops. These men count on each other for survival and to complete their task on the battlefield. This adds an additional layer to their bond. It's really great spending some time on Kamino to get a more up-close and personal feel for what a clone's training looks like. Like, look at this guy, he's really practicing his stormtrooper aim.
Disregard.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
It leaves me wanting a little more, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. The voiceover sets the tone for the story very well. You ain't some bitch-ass clone, you're a bitchin' commando.
Look
Thanks
out.
for the rescue.
Yeah, they're really dumping all their hopes into these special forces units. Anyways, before you know it, you're dropped into the Battle of Geonosis. When the hangar door opens in the LAAT, the setting is immediately impactful. It's chaotic, there's explosions, you meet the advisor and get dropped onto the battlefield. And let's not forget about this poor guy whose life didn't last very long.
Okay, look out! I will be providing.
It's such a nice touch in the beginning of the game, hearing regular clone troopers talk about commandos.
Hey, 3-5, check it out! Commando! If they're anything as good as I hear, they could practically win the war themselves.
This solidifies everything you were told about being a different breed of soldier and adds to the mythos surrounding the commandos. I loved looking around to see the war waging in the background, tanks, LAATs, ships causing havoc everywhere, explosions, you're in a war. It puts the battle into scale. After watching the films and the other Star Wars content, it lets you know you are boots on the ground and shows how dangerous these battles really are. You aren't a space wizard, you're dispensable. The story becomes grounded in this sci-fi setting. It's a good choice meeting one member of the squad at a time. The introduction set the tone for their personalities nicely. Scorch is a little more happy-go-lucky and loves his demolitions. Fixer's the brains and he's very by the book, and Sev is very much a lone wolf. Once you're all together, the gameplay does a good deal of the storytelling. You hear how they communicate in battle, and the dialogue really does sound like brotherly love.
Roger that, squad leader. Locate turret controls and commence disabling maneuvers.
Disabling maneuvers?
Blowing things up?
Oh, I knew that.
If you have brothers, you know there's a lot of banter.
Ooh, where are we dropping?
Your first main objective with the squad is to take down the Geonosian Lieutenant Sunfac. One thing I really loved about this game as a kid was how heavily they leaned into the T-rated language.
Boss. What the hell was that?
Geonosian elite. Watch out for them.
When you're 10 years old and you know you're not supposed to say that as a kid going to Catholic school, you're like, man, this is fucking hardcore. I was like, what? I didn't know they used that word in Star Wars. That's a bad word. Shit. Once you finally get to Sunfac and you and your whole squad contribute to taking him down, then you just hear the main theme hit. It feels so rewarding.
Woohoo! Yeah! I love that smell!
All I smell is burnt Geonosian.
3-8, my scanners show an explosion.
That's affirmative. Subject terminated.
But a moment of victory is short-lived and you're on to your next objective. It's not a huge grand space opera story. It's the story of soldiers in war and having your fellow man's back. Controlling your squad to complete your mission is the name of the game. But if you spam commands, expect some backtalk.
Abandon position, Delta. Delta squad, let's take it down from here. Let's move on. On my way. Cancel snipe maneuver, Commando. Are you trying to baffle the enemy into submission, sir?
Once you get to the droid factory and split up, it's such a weird feeling. You realize how vital your squad is and how you command them. It also means there's no room for error because no one can revive you. The first bit of gameplay without your squad really feels uncomfortable. Being alone here truly emphasizes the game's mechanics being a squad-based shooter. Man, these things are freaking bullet sponges. You can manage without your squad, but the difference without them will really smack you in the face. Towards the end of the mission, you need to slice into a terminal, and this one takes longer than most slice procedures. You're up against a timer, so you really need to be efficient. Seriously, be efficient or you will get locked in a bad checkpoint and you will keep failing the mission over and over again. It is vital to control your squad to get through the droidicas, super battle droids, and hold the line and defend the terminal you are slicing into. In situations like this, how you handle your resource management is key. You need to assign people to sniping positions, areas where they can throw grenades, or use the grenade launcher, and have someone cracking the terminal at the same time. Be strategic with your positioning so you don't have any blind spots and the commando slicing into the unit has an appropriate amount of defense. Everything here is mission critical and the tension is high with droids coming at you from everywhere and there's automatic turrets. It's just a lot of chaos. The game executes this tense, overwhelming feeling and blends it together with moments of personality from the squad.
In 4 minutes.
Remind me to leave the ship before we destroy it next time. We've got the code.
Well done, Deltas. Now get yourselves out of there.
Let's form up. Doors open. Delta
Can we
squad,
leave
we're
now?
approaching the core ship now.
Scorch always managed to provide some comic relief. The wrap up for this mission can be a tedious grind with a bunch of bullet sponge droids that just don't stop spawning, and then throw in that loop where you get stuck into a really bad checkpoint and have to start from further back, and it's really frustrating. Any hoosers. So it's your first day on the job and the commandos are efficient and deadly. Delta Squad's hard-fought victory did not go unnoticed, and you see how capable your squad is when used efficiently. Now, the next mission jumps forward a year into the Clone Wars. One thing worth mentioning about this line in particular, the Battle of Geonosis was a colossal failure for the Republic, and this is from a straight-up military perspective. There were about 182 Jedi that died in the battle, and the Jedi were not prepared to be generals on the battlefield. When it came to clone casualties, there were roughly 160,000 deaths from the 192,000 that were deployed. About 50% of all clone commando units were killed, and surviving members would be reassigned into new squads. The Battle of Geonosis cost the Republic a huge deal of resources and really pissed off the clones. One of the long-term effects from all the casualties of the Battle of Geonosis meant that there was essentially no downtime for the clone soldiers. They also questioned the battle strategy and whether or not the victory of the battle was even worth it. Just think about the next time you watch Attack of the Clones. I mean, look at that. They're out there in the open, just running at each other. You know, if it was a Revolutionary War, all they're missing is a drummer. Delta Squad remaining intact is a major accomplishment and shows just how elite that unit is. Their work on Geonosis made them an easy choice for the second mission in the game, the Prosecutor. During the briefing, it sets the stage so well. It's always fun watching the commandos interact with each other and having some fun on the job. And it's nice just looking around the ship, seeing some small attention to detail, like just some ammo laying around the floor for them.
You hear that, Sev? Someone thinks I'm excellent.
Well, at least that makes two of you.
Delta Squad, prepare for low-gravity infiltration.
Having the Prosecutor being the Delta's home ship makes this mission feel a lot more personal.
The Prosecutor was our first home. We were stationed there for a long
The
time.
last patrol was the Corellia sector.
3-8, nobody cares. This is such a beautiful shot, and I love anything like this where it puts Star Wars objects into scale. The mission begins with the Prosecutor being abandoned in space for about 2 weeks, and the squad splits up to start things out. The start of the Prosecutor is far different from the bombastic intro of the Battle of Geonosis. It's obvious that something has clearly gone horribly wrong, and the game drops you into a quiet, dark, and lonesome, eerie setting. The atmosphere and tension makes you want to constantly check your surroundings. You hear the squad chatter, then something not so unexpected happens.
6-2 again. I'm getting that static again. Stronger this time. I can hardly see. What the? 6-2. Delta 6-2. Can you hear me? Report. Get off me, you throwing bag of bull!
This is only one major reveal to come, and there's this feeling of the tension being dialed up to 11 while also brilliantly introducing you to a new enemy variant. These little bastards can be really annoying though, so just, stay behind cover and camp like a pro. Then you run into a clone on a smoke break or something.
You're a commando. Thank goodness.
What happened here?
I'm not sure. I was scanning the maintenance corridors when I heard blaster fire. By the time I got to where the noise was, everyone was dead.
So you came to the torpedo bay to hide?
No, sir. I was trying to...
I love how 3-8's like, man, what's this bitch doing? And the way this interaction ends is just hilarious.
Thanks for the rescue.
Try making that noise and see who can be the best Steve the Clone Trooper. Please send your voice notes to twoaveragebrothers@gmail.com and let's see who can do the best impersonation. The theme of horror mystery continues the more you explore the ship. I was on edge finding dead clones with severed limbs throughout a beaten up, dimly lit ship. Everything here just makes you feel uncomfortable, especially when you find a group of clones fighting an enemy you can't see. Your imagination just continues to run wild. What kind of threat could leave all of this carnage behind? The ship really looks like trash.
Trash. Yeah, I love trash. Yum, yum, trash.
Hell yeah, I love that little guy.
There's more great attention to detail traversing the droid conduits, having mouse droids and astromechs roaming about the ship. The imagery is much more harsh than just about any other Star Wars project and shows how vulnerable you can be as a clone. Then, you link up with Sev.
Hold on, got some static here.
Sev, can you read me? Come on, Sev.
These little bastards just come barreling at you. Luckily, since these little bastards are fat little bastards, they can't fit into the droid access conduits.
Those lizards are too fat to fit in the droid access shaft.
Real quick, how awesome would a Death Troopers game with this type of setting be? Going through a stranded ship with zombies and Star Wars sounds pretty awesome to me. But before that, we need a sequel to Republic Commando. I remember this game being my introduction to the Trandoshan species. So it was jarring to see Bossk in the Clone Wars when I expected him to have, let's say, a higher center of gravity. The way this mission continues to unravel is just remarkable. You know Delta Squad is more than capable of handling their own, and things never feel impossible, but shit just keeps getting worse. As you continue making your way around the ship, you see clones killed execution style.
Shotguns? I didn't think...
The Trandoshans have left some traps behind for you. They ambush you, and you see burnt clones around the ship. This game pulls some really heavy punches on a T rating. Everything is done in an order that makes you feel like you have no control of the situation and adds to how ruthless the Trandoshans are. You'll constantly be double checking corners, your back, and looking out for ambushes. There's still some clones trying to hold their own on the ship, and I love how Boss doesn't take any back talk from anyone. He always has control of the situation. He's always down to brass tacks.
Oh, one of the deluxe models. Come to save us with your superior training.
This deluxe model is the only thing standing between you and a bloody death. So you'd best be showing some respect, Trooper.
Yes, sir. What are your orders, sir?
Hold the line.
This is a fantastic job of keeping his character consistent. He is a squad leader, so his men look up to him. He always keeps his cool and doesn't let a bad situation get the best of him. On this mission, there's the most notable Easter egg in the game. When you crawl through a hatch, look at what you find.
An elegant weapon for a more civilized time, huh? Well, guess what? Times have changed.
How bad must have things gotten for a Jedi to perish? It's really interesting how the lightsaber ended up with a clone trooper. Did he care for the Jedi he served under and wanted to keep it in his memory? Or did he simply see the lightsaber as another way to defend himself? It really makes you play out a story in your head for what led up to these events. Now, the game does let you use a few special weapons to add to your arsenal. So, as a kid, I thought I would be able to use the lightsaber. It frustrated me so much not being able to use it, and it still kinda does. Like, come on! Let me whack some droids with it. When I found the lightsaber as a kid, I swear, I thought I was the only one who had ever found it. The lightsaber sticks out because this game is respectfully adjacent to the Jedi to the point where it's a little shocking to find it, but not out of left field. You know, John Dowd's position. The player knows what's going on in the Star Wars universe, but you're so immersed in the gameplay that you're a little bit caught off guard by it. There's payoff for sure, as well as an eerie feeling to it. When you run into Fixer and go to rendezvous with the rest of the squad, it feels like sweet relief. But don't worry, my sweet summer child, things are worse. The Trandoshans start to deploy battle droids. And when you go to rescue Sev, I felt really pissed seeing the Trandoshans beat him trying to get information out of him. You want to protect your squad at all costs. The Deltas are very resistant. Just ask Scorch.
Did I miss anything important? No. Did you get the data?
Yeah, they searched me, but I hid the data pretty well.
Where exactly?
You don't want to know.
Ah, you gotta love Scorch. I can see Fixer just shaking his head in disapproval. Then learning the Trandoshans want to strike a deal with the Separatists is just heart-sinking. You have to hold on for dear life and reestablish communications. Then something happens that furthers the britches.
Oh, blast.
This will be a challenge.
I like to be kissed before I get
Somehow, all of this doesn't seem insurmountable. Maybe that's because one of the main themes in all of Star Wars is hope. The way war is portrayed in this game makes you feel like a cog in the overall machine of the Clone Wars. But the battles you are in feel so huge. It will take your squad, proper resource management, and critical thinking to get out of this nightmare. The Prosecutor pulls this off to perfection. Delta Squad never feels like they're out of a fight, and they stay composed and continue to rely on the man next to them.
Hi, I'm Squash. You may not know me, but I'm a person who loves stories where a bad situation just gets worse. Think Halo Reach, when the planet Reach is just getting overwhelmed. Or Resident Evil 2, where Raccoon City is just getting overwhelmed. Or SimCity, where the city is overwhelmed by that badass decision making. Either way, the way this level paints a bad situation getting worse is probably the main reason why I think it's so amazing. Star Wars' most famous moments come from moments of tension just racking up, like the first Death Star assault, or the events of the Emperor's throne room in Episode 6. It just invokes so much investment in whatever universe you're in. It even lets me turn off my cynicism and simply enjoy the story that's happening before me. In the Prosecutor level, the Deltas start stranded and separate as they desperately try to figure out what the hell happened to the ship. And even after you spend so many levels to fully reunite and are back to full strength, the Deltas are presented with a no-win situation, ominous music, and a really imposing camera work. Trying to hold off the entire invasion force of their own is even described within the own game as suicidal, and prompts my favorite Scorch comment.
We'll make them regret the day they blew up Delta Squad.
The Deltas just accidentally find themselves in the middle of a crucial event, even though they were first told it was just reconnaissance. Kind of very similar to what happens in the last level also, but it's also cool there. And all of the 4 Deltas charging into the hangars, and they have to defend all of them, with the sense of what they're doing grows more and more impossible as the droids have more time to prepare with each new hangar you enter. It's definitely one of my most hyped video game moments of all time. Right up there with Goofy G Goof dying in Kingdom Hearts 2. The real ones know what I mean. It was these sorts of moments in the Star Wars universe as a whole that really painted the Clone Wars as pretty much my favorite setting in that universe.
Cousin.
Let's go bowling.
Like you were talking about with holding off the invasion force, it just feels so badass setting up traps, using turrets. It's almost like you're preparing to go out with this massive bang. The urgency is real because all of the information aboard the ship makes it such a valuable asset for the Republic. You have to survive until help arrives. My favorite moment of the entire game takes place at the tail end of this mission. Like my cousin mentioned after we went bowling, the odds couldn't be more stacked against you. This is such a fitting way to end this emotional roller coaster. It's a lot of fun just getting to blow up with the ATTE. Then after that, Delta Squad takes out a droid capital ship.
Look at that. That's beautiful.
What a fitting high-octane way to finish things off. The story thread for Kashyyyk? Kashyyyk? Kashyyyk?
The Kashyyyk.
There's a lot of lies. Follows the Prosecutor nicely. The Trandoshans want battle droids in an effort to enslave the Wookiees and overtake Kashyyyk even a year later. So it's an effective enough way to write the Trandoshans into this part of the story as well. So, since this is a Star Wars project, naturally someone is trying to enslave the Wookiees. So something that's easy to forget looking at this retrospectively, this game and some of the games around this era were our first look at Kashyyyk. Revenge of the Sith came out on May 19th of 2005, and it would be more or less the first official view of Kashyyyk. Republic Commando was released a few months prior before the film, and it nailed the look of the Wookiee homeworld. The game's art style being more raw and gritty fits in with the movie counterpart beautifully. It's cool to think that this could have been possibly your first look at the planet leading up to Revenge of the Sith. It really seemed like such a momentous occasion as a kid at the time, waiting to see episode 3 in theaters. The main objective of this mission is to locate the Wookiee chieftain Tarful. Wait a minute. I got so damn excited when I saw Tarful in Fallen Order. All it made me think of was Republic Commando.
Tarful down. Scanning 0 life signs. Delta lead, we needed him alive. Mission failed. We'll get him next time.
Well, Republic Commando is still a part of my headcanon. Yoda says a quick line to Tarful in episode 3, but besides this game and Fallen Order, I can't think of really ever seeing him in any Star Wars. I really love the portrayal of the Wookiees in this game. It's everything like you'd imagine they would be. Imposing, powerful, and somewhat, let's say, undomesticated. You free a few in the beginning of the mission, and they are really helpful. One thing I actually geeked out about with this game as a kid was you get a clear line of sight of General Grievous, and I swear I shot him. See, there we go, we won the war! And yet again, after you get introduced to the Magna Guards, the way this game portrays the droid army is so beautiful. The Magna Guards feel so imposing with their athletic, acrobatic movements, just jumping around everywhere. They come up to you and shock you and just dash away. It's another example of how a fight like this could be rather routine for a Jedi. It just shifts your perspective seeing it from the view of a clone trooper. The banter that goes on during this fight is also Commando perfection.
Priority.
That would be easier if you backed down a little.
Never argue with the Wookiees, 3-8.
But overall, this mission fell a little flat to me. It got super repetitive. Go here, objective, ambush, rinse, repeat, recycle. But they were able to break this cycle pretty nicely, having the Geonosians show up, so it felt a little less repetitive throwing in a new enemy variant. It shows the extreme lengths that the Confederacy is willing to go through to capture Kashyyyk. But there was this one part on the mission that was so damn frustrating, just constantly getting slapped by the concussion rifles from these fat little Trandoshans.
384.
On your 6, 3-8. Nothing to lose. Find a way to get him out of there. Back hard, Delta.
Behind you, 38.
Now, that wasn't the only thing that put me aboard the struggle bus. One really nice detail I noticed on this playthrough that I have never noticed before was the order in which the deltas split up to go to the turrets. In the beginning of the game, you link up with Scorch, Fixer, then you round it up with Sev. This time Sev goes first, then Fixer, and finally Scorch, before you're left all on your own. It never feels right splitting up with your squad, and this time is no exception. There's something satisfying that even though you're split up, it still takes all 4 of you to complete your objective.
Missiles away! Missiles away! Missiles away!
Boss, I've got a problem here.
Sir, we have to go back. Commando, he's talking about my pod, bro.
All Republic forces, establish forward command in Kashyyyk.
Is that really who I think it is?
Rendezvous with Delta Squad, we must.
Everything about leaving Sev behind feels wrong. At this time in the Star Wars canon, the clones were brainwashed with Republic propaganda to be obedient and follow any orders they were given. It's a little bewildering to see Yoda. It's in the same vein as the lightsaber Easter egg we talked about earlier in the video, but with more magnitude coming from the Grandmaster of the Jedi. Delta Squad always seems to find themselves in the middle of crucial moments in the war, and the ending is just so full of juxtaposition with how bright and vibrant Kashyyyk is when the rest of the game feels so dark in tone, atmosphere, and lighting. This time, the darkness is all internal, and it's pretty brilliant to set up the future decision-making of Delta Squad from the sequel we never got. The advisor was just following orders, so the orders came from Yoda himself. This would give Delta Squad all the incentive they need to follow through with Order 66. After all, their own brother wasn't important enough to be rescued. And that's it. You're left on the cliffhanger. How could you not want a sequel? The fate of Sev is unknown, and the events of Episode 3 are about to take place. And as mentioned before, Order 66. Well, we knew some other squads would f*** off with that order. The story for Republic Commando is truly it's rock solid. It's so much fun. It's not too complicated, and they know the story they wanted to deliver, and it got conveyed very well. It's a story of soldiers, brotherhood, and some of the harsh realities of war. Republic Commando offers an intimate view of what it's like to be a clone, a commando, and what the Clone Wars look like for you non-space wizards out there. Also, it leaves some of the clones' treatment up to your own personal interpretation. They were just battle-weary and fought non-stop. That brings in the moral dilemma of creating a clone army for war, and they weren't really treated as people. They're property of the Republic, slaves in someone else's war, fed non-stop Republic propaganda, and just get dropped into a battlefield. What was the plan for all the clones after the war ended? Or as all the clones knew, all Delta Squad has is each other. That's why it's so heartbreaking when you lose Sev. In the beginning of the game, you were told, Delta Squad is each a piece of a whole person, so you can only imagine how deep it cuts to lose a quarter of yourself. This is where the main theme of the game really hits. You don't matter, you're just a grunt. It's so callous as a foot soldier. You don't even get a choice on whether or not you get to go after Sev. You have to follow orders from command. That's the reality of war compounded by the fact that they're indoctrinated to follow orders. It feels like the first time boss doesn't have control of a situation and everyone's emotions are just running rampant. The payoff hits so hard because you truly have an attachment to the squad. You couldn't complete your objectives and missions without them. The squad chatter and interactions, it really just humanizes them. When you go through the deepest trenches of hell with someone, you come out with such a strong bond. I love how the game was able to convey all of this, mostly through gameplay, and to change the view on what a war is like in Star Wars. It's brutal, unforgiving, and messy. You end up having a deeper appreciation for the clones as people, and you realize how deeply the Jedi depend on the clones to get the job done. This game is just a masterclass in show don't tell with the Deltas. Their armor stands out from regular clones, and their armor is designed in a way that reflects each of their personalities. Now, all of their personalities get fleshed out more with each member of the squad having their own voice actor, and having Tamora Morrison being Delta 38 was a good call to round out the squad. The characters were thought out so well, and I think what people remember most about this game is Delta Squad. You become accustomed to the chatter between Sev and Scorch keeping things light, only for Fixer to be a bigger buzzkill than Buzz Killington.
6-2 here. I think I've reached the coolant intake valve. No, wait. It's an exhaust port.
6-2, could you can the chatter until you've got something useful to say?
There's so much dynamic dialogue based on how you're playing the game, and it really forms them into a squad who has spent a lifetime fighting together. The story was still able to flesh out its own space in pop culture, spawning some pretty amazing memes. Scorch's line on the Prosecutor is brilliant and shows the resilience of Delta Squad. Getting to use the ATTE was just jaw-dropping. Republic Commando puts weapons like this into perspective for the average person. Having scale for things in Star Wars is such a beautiful thing. To this day, fans of Star Wars, fans of the game are left wondering what happened to Sev.
Boss, I've got a problem here.
Sev, where are you?
Multiple hostiles.
I really hope that wasn't it.
Somehow
Sev
returned.
Ah, yes, that explains everything. No further explanation required. The story is impactful through its gameplay and grounded setting. It's really just straightforward, simple, and effective. It really makes for a fun gameplay experience. I really appreciate projects like this that explore Star Wars in a different way. Maybe more than some others.
You're not supposed to have screws in Star Wars. You're not supposed to have, like, brick walls. Those things don't exist.
I think we all really cherish our time with Delta Squad and learning about the person under the helmet. See, you can tell a story without having to see someone's face and ass cheeks for every 10 seconds. No wonder you got canceled. Thank God, Halo fans everywhere rejoice. Replaying Republic Commando, its gameplay really did remind me of Halo. It even seemed like some of the art style and graphical fidelity followed up on Halo 2. It also picked up on some of the trends at the time, while adding its own gameplay and mechanics that made for its own unique experience. It followed kind of that triangle Halo had of you're able to move at the same time, shoot, and throw grenades. It allows for some quicker pacing in an arena-based shooter. You also have to balance the gameplay while commanding your squad to be as efficient as possible. Now let's talk about some of the weapons in this game.
I need a weapon.
There are three main weapons, the DC-17, the grenade launcher, and the sniper rifle. The way one gun can be configured into three weapons, it's a very creative idea. It's pretty fun to cycle between the different weapons just to see the assembly animations. There are also weapons from each faction in the game to add some more variety to the sandbox, but most of them felt like they were used for the same purpose. Something with extra punch against the super battle droids. It didn't really feel like each weapon had a defined purpose necessarily. It was there for when you ran out of ammo on some weapons or to have something else to use. For example, are you out of your grenade launcher and sniper rifle? Here's the Trandoshans light machine gun or the concussion rifle. Is your DC-17 out of ammo? Here's a submachine gun. One of the weapons that felt like it actually had a pretty defined purpose was the Trandoshan shotgun. At the beginning of the Prosecutor, the Trandoshans charge you, and being alone with the DC-17 doesn't always feel like it's powerful enough, plus it just spits ammo. The shotgun is perfect, since they charge you, it's close range, you can take them out and drop them quickly. The Geonosis beam rifle, the Wookiee bowcaster, and the Wookiee rocket launcher felt like they were there to have something else to use to freshen things up a bit, with not much more purpose than that. The beam rifle's fun, but there's practically no ammo to it. The rocket launcher felt kind of useless since you have the grenade launcher, and you can have your squad focus fire on heavier units, plus it feels really clunky, and it slows you down tremendously. The Wookiee bowcaster has decent mid-range functionality, which would have been a nice idea to build on, but with the sniper rifle, it feels like it just pales in comparison when you have the sniper rifle at your disposal. The sniper rifle is useful and very powerful, but its inclusion feels like another power weapon. The missions don't feel large enough to where you have to zoom in to take out any enemies, especially since there isn't an enemy sniper variant. Oh yeah, the DC-15. Yeah, that covers that. There's quite a few grenade variants in the game, and again, they all went towards basically super battle droids and similar heavy units. The flashbangs were actually pretty useful against the Trandoshans because it stuns them, but they have no purpose against the droids. The weapons are all fun to use, and I understand how it can be difficult to balance all the weapons in the sandbox when there's squad-based gameplay and focus fire and all of that, and you still want them to be powerful enough for the solo sections of the game. It's all that much more frustrating that there's no sequel because some refined power balancing with the weapons and squad commands would take this game to another level. A lot of the gameplay with the weapons is basically save it for your newfound fear of super battle droids. Now, the most important part of the gameplay is how you command your squad. There are 4 main commands, and you'll have to assign them to different positions. Like I talked about during the end of the mission on Geonosis, how you direct them and manage your resources is key to accomplishing your goal. Always make use of positions where they can snipe, use explosives or grenades to cover the person who's completing the objective. When it came to the secure area command, it was basically just so they wouldn't charge stupidly headfirst into some battle they would never win. Form up would have a similar effect, but sometimes they still default to search and destroy, so secure area command's probably the best to use in that kind of situation. Something that I felt like was the biggest wasted opportunity in the game was when it comes to squad commands, all the deltas do everything exactly the same. There's no added benefit of having Sev be your sniper, Scorch prepping your demolitions, or having Fixer slice into terminals. Their specialty is a huge part of their character trait, and that does not translate in the gameplay. It would have been more engaging to have some sort of trade-off depending on who completes a certain task. For example, If you have Sev Snipe, he has a higher shot accuracy from a sniper position. In addition to that, there's no blind spots when you assign someone to a certain position, so it's not like you have to assign them strategically to avoid being flanked. Overall, the weapon sandbox and the squad commands would have benefited from some more fine-tuning, but what we have here is still incredible and so much fun to play. This is all stuff that a sequel would have enhanced. One thing that this game really excelled at, especially compared to other games that had a similar approach, is the squad-based gameplay. Your friendly AI is actually useful and responsive. For example, in Halo Reach and Halo 5, your allies feel so useless and stupid. Your squad is necessary to the gameplay, and that is pointed out by the solo sections and having a revival mechanic. Your squad can hold the line for a while without you, and they will get you back in the fight. This game really felt ahead of its time when it came to the squad-based gameplay, and for a game that came out in 2005, man, it holds up really well. Please play it if you haven't already. Time and MVP baseball have been so favorable to this game, it's no wonder Tamora Morrison was worried about his son flunking out of school.
Be me going, get off that game and do some homework.
Get off that game and do some homework.
This game's legacy has permeated the Star Wars landscape. I'm always going to hold out hope that one day we'll get a proper sequel to this game, and I'm sure if you're watching, you probably feel the same way. That hope really resurfaced for me as a kid in 2011 when Delta Squad made a cameo in Star Wars The Clone Wars in the episode titled Witches of the Mist. The show is obviously still canon even following Disney's purchase of Star Wars in 2012. I remember the first time I saw this and I was just like, Delta Squad is canon. I was hoping there would be more to do with Delta Squad following this cameo, especially with Dave Filoni citing this game as an inspiration for The Clone Wars. It was unbelievable seeing them after they remained dormant for 6 years? Then going back to the 2010s, that hope really faded with how bastardized the Clone War era became once Disney bought the rights to Star Wars. When the reboot for the Battlefront series came out, it didn't even include the Clone Wars era or Galactic Conquest. I mean, come on, we had to know it would be rough then. It took a while for Disney to come to terms with parts of the fan base enjoying the Clone Wars. Nowadays, they've really embraced it and leaned on it heavily. But anyway, let's get back to Delta Squad's cameo in the Clone Wars. The notorious cowboy hat-wearing, wolf-loving George Lucas's main bitch Dave Filoni cited Republic Commando as an inspiration when creating the characters for the Clone Wars, like I mentioned earlier. A major part of the animated Clone Wars was to flesh out the clones more. A huge example starts with the episode The Rookies and seeing how this group of clones develops throughout the war. Clones get promoted, mark their armor, and give each other nicknames to flesh out their own identities. Something that will grind my gears until we get a sequel is that there was plans for a sequel. You can clearly tell by the ending, it just never got past concept art. I guess for the sake of Tamora Morrison's son, we should be happy there, but no. Legend has it to this day, he's still playing Republic Commando and has not finished his homework.
Get off that game and do some homework.
Just imagine the sequel having a good chunk of dedicated gameplay to playing as the Commandos during Order 66. Just let your imagination run wild on that. Order 66 itself has been expanded upon more, but in more cinematic ways, we got some gameplay for it in Star Wars Battlefront 2, so I think it would just be well overdue to get gameplay dedicated to it. Only time will tell what's in store for Delta Squad's future. Maybe one day we'll figure out what happened to Sev. Now clearly all of that is to say what made this game so great, but if we had to chalk it down to one thing, I think the biggest reason for this game being so fondly remembered is really just Delta Squad. The characters. They're so intertwined with the gameplay loops because missions depend on how you use your squad. How dark the story is with the gore, dismemberment, and brutality carved out such a recognizable experience for Republic Commando. I mean, there's still nothing else like it as far as Star Wars games go. Throughout this replay, I found myself smiling so many times and even laughing from remarks the squad members made. I even picked up on some dialogue I don't think I've ever heard before, another similarity between Star Wars Republic Commando and MVP Baseball 2005. My girlfriend sat in on some of my playthrough and was entertained by the squad banter. The Deltas have such a recognizable look, and the voice acting for all of them, it was just incredible. This game is such a refreshing, interesting take when you compare it to the rest of the Star Wars game library. The development team had a clear vision for the type of game they wanted to make, and they just delivered on it. Something that's still so impressive about this game is the animation. An actual Spec Ops member was brought in to model the character animation from. That's why everything looks so fluid and the squad feels like such a well-oiled machine. It's just another layer of immersion behind the scenes. To this day, this is still one of the best Star Wars games ever made, and there's honestly nothing else out there like it. Now, I just have to say, I really appreciate you watching this video. It's a lot of time and passion I dedicate to this, and it's such a labor of love. And you taking the time out of your day, I mean, it really means a lot to me. Let me know what you think of Republic Commando down in the comment section below, and any other games you'd like to see discussed on this channel. If you'd like to game with the Average Brothers, send us an email at 2averagebrothers@gmail.com, and don't forget to send your Last thing before we go. The writing process for this script was a little different. I collaborated with some of my friends to proofread it and offer any suggestions to the script that they saw fit. I want to thank my cousin, my girlfriend, and Memonger for looking things over. And cuz, thank you for coming on the channel for your segment on the Prosecutor. That's all we got for you in this video. Peace!